Jessica had always been skeptical of ghost stories. As a freelance writer, she prided herself on her logical mind and her ability to find the rational explanation behind any mystery. So when she inherited her grandmother's old Victorian house on the outskirts of town, she saw it as a perfect place to write her next novel. Not as a haunted mansion full of secrets. The house was beautiful, though in desperate need of repairs. It had stood empty for years after her grandmother's passing, accumulating dust and a sense of abandonment. Jessica arrived with a sense of purpose and a plan to restore the place while finding inspiration for her book. The first few days were uneventful. Jessica spent her time cleaning, organizing, and exploring the house. There were creaky floorboards, strange drafts, and the occasional odd noise, but nothing that couldn't be explained by the house's age. However, the attic always gave her an uneasy feeling. She avoided it, attributing her discomfort to the dark, cramped space filled with old, forgotten memories. One evening, as she was settling into her writing, Jessica heard a loud thump from above. It was unlike the usual groans of the old house. It sounded deliberate. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed a flashlight and headed toward the attic. The door was slightly ajar, which was strange since she always made sure to keep it shut. But then she saw it. In the far corner of the attic, a shadow moved. Jessica froze, her flashlight trembling. The shadow wasn't cast by anything she could see. It seemed to move independently, as if it were alive. "Who's there?" she called out. No answer. The shadow continued to move, almost beckoning her. Suddenly, the attic door slammed shut behind her. She spun around, her heart racing. She was plunged into darkness, the flashlight flickering before going out completely. She fumbled to turn it back on, but the switch wouldn't budge. She was trapped in the pitch black with the shadow. A low whispering sound filled the air. Jessica couldn't make out the words, but the tone was menacing. She backed away, her hands searching for the door. The whispering grew louder, more insistent, surrounding her, echoing in her mind. Then she felt it, a cold, clammy hand on her shoulder. Jessica's mind raced, trying to find a way out. She remembered the small window on the far side of the attic. It was her only hope. Blindly, she stumbled toward where she thought the window was, the laughter and whispers following her. She reached out, her fingers brushing against cold glass. With all her strength, she pushed at the window, but it was stuck. "Help me!" she screamed, hoping someone, anyone, would hear her. The mocking laughter was deafening now, and the shadow was almost upon her. In a final act of desperation, she smashed the flashlight against the window, shattering the glass. She climbed through, cutting her hands and legs on the shards, and tumbled out onto the roof. Breathing heavily, she crawled down to the edge and managed to lower herself to the ground. She looked back at the attic window, expecting to see the shadowy figure, but there was nothing there. The attic was dark and silent. Shaken, Jessica ran to the nearest neighbor's house and pounded on the door. They called the police, who searched the attic thoroughly, but found nothing out of the ordinary. No shadow, no evidence of anyone else being there. Jessica moved out of the house the next day, leaving her inheritance behind. She couldn't explain what had happened, and she didn't care to. The house at the edge of town remained empty, and stories of the haunted attic continued to circulate. But Jessica never spoke of her experience again, preferring to leave the mystery and the terror behind her, locked away in the shadows of the attic.